You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. James Clear. Let's face it, most people fail not because they lacked ambition, but because their habits were working against them. They want to get fit, but their fridge tells a different story. They want to write that book, but their phone always wins. They want to change their lives, but every morning looks just like the last. We tell ourselves, this year I'll finally do it. This time I'll stay consistent. This time will be different. But time doesn't care. Only systems do. Imagine this, a world where every little choice you make whispers into your future, where the tiniest actions quietly multiply behind the scenes, shaping who you become. No drama, no fanfare, just quiet, invisible transformation, like water carving stone. We are told that change requires motivation, discipline, or even genius. But what if all you needed was momentum? Just a nudge in the right direction, repeated over time to compound into a radically different you. This is the world of atomic habits, not a world of crushing goals, but of tiny changes that shape your days, that build your systems, that rewire your identity, that transform your destiny. This isn't a book about behavior. It's a manual on becoming. Let's rewind. Before he became a best-selling author, before he was a high-performance expert, James Clear was just another kid with a dream and a shattered face. He was 15, a baseball prodigy. Then one day in practice, a stray bat struck his skull. The impact was brutal. Fractured eye socket, broken nose, brain swelling, a medically induced coma. He couldn't breathe on his own, couldn't walk, couldn't even move properly. Everything stopped. Recovery was hellishly slow. He missed his sophomore year, relearned how to walk, had seizures, memory loss. And yet, slowly, very slowly, he rebuilt. But not through massive acts of will. Through something far less glamorous, sleeping early, reading one page, doing one push-up, showing up, again and again. Each small behavior was a brick. Eventually, the bricks formed a path. In college, he became an ESPN academic All-American. Then he started writing, first just blog posts. But one idea kept coming up again and again in the research. We don't change by setting goals. We change by changing our habits. People didn't need more ambition. They needed a system that worked. So James kept writing. One article a week, subscribers grew, tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. The frameworks evolved. The models got tested in businesses, schools, gyms, homes. Eventually, Atomic Habits was born, and with it, a revolution in how we think about behavior. This wasn't motivational fluff. This was science, psychology, biology, practical wisdom, backed by real change. Tiny changes equals giant results. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. James Clear. If you improved by just 1% a day, you wouldn't be twice as good in a year. You'd be 37 times better. That's the math of marginal gains, not linear. Exponential. You won't notice it tomorrow or next week. But eventually, it becomes a chasm, a divide between who you could have been and who you became. Let's go deeper. In 2003, the British cycling team was a national embarrassment. No Olympic medals in 100 years. No Tour de France wins. Top bike manufacturers didn't even want them using their gear, afraid it would damage their reputation. Then came Dave Brailsford with one strange philosophy: the aggregation of marginal gains. Improve everything by 1%. Better seat cushions, aerodynamic uniforms, hand-washing lessons to avoid illness, massage gel tested for best muscle recovery, even painting the inside of the truck white to spot dust before it got on the bikes. Tiny changes, individually unremarkable, collectively unstoppable. Within 5 years, Olympic golds, multiple Tour de France wins, and a dynasty built on small wins stacked relentlessly. Now ask yourself, what's your equivalent of that white paint on the truck? What could you slightly improve today that no one will see until one day they can't ignore? Enter the science. Habits form in a loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. It starts with a cue, a trigger, a notification, a scent, a time, a place. Then comes craving, the urge. Response follows, the action itself. And finally, the reward, that hit of dopamine, relief, satisfaction, completion. Every time this loop runs successfully, the brain wires it tighter. Repeat it often enough, it becomes automatic. That's what a habit is, a shortcut the brain takes to save energy. You brush your teeth automatically, check your phone automatically, snack at 4 p.m. automatically. But here's the insight. Habits are neither good nor bad in themselves. They are just loops that are repeated. You can engineer them if you understand the system, and once you do, you don't fight for motivation. You fight to create loops that serve you. Habits are not goals, they are systems. A goal is to write a book. A habit is to write 200 words a day. A goal is to lose weight. A habit is to eat slow, sleep well, and walk 10 minutes after dinner. A goal is to have more focus. A habit is to silence notifications and open your deep work folder at 8 a.m. Goals set direction. Systems drive progress. Now here's where it gets powerful. Habits shape identity. Every habit you repeat is a vote for the type of person you are becoming. Every time you go to the gym, vote for, I am an athlete. Every time you make your bed, vote for, I am organized. Every time you break a promise to yourself, vote for, I'm unreliable. It's not about perfection. It's about casting votes. Daily, quietly, and slowly, those votes become a self-image. You become who you believe you are, and you believe you are what you repeatedly do. In the beginning, it's hard. The benefits are invisible. James calls this the valley of latent potential. Imagine an ice cube in a cold room. At -4 degrees Celsius, nothing happens. At -2 degrees Celsius, nothing. At -1 degree Celsius, still ice. But at 0 degrees Celsius, it begins to melt. A phase shift. It wasn't that the previous degrees didn't matter. They were all building pressure until the breakthrough. Change is not linear. It's geometric. Most people give up at -1 degrees Celsius. Winners push through to 0. Identity-based habits. The most effective way to change your habits is to focus not on what you want to achieve, but on who you wish to become. James Clear. Most people approach change backwards. They focus on what they want to achieve. I want to write a novel. I want to lose 10 kilograms. I want to earn more money. So they set goals, make plans, buy gear, watch YouTube videos, but goals don't change behavior. Identity does. The 3 layers of behavior change. James explains that there are 3 layers to habit change. Outcomes, the results you want. Processes, the systems you follow. Identity, the beliefs you hold. Most people try to change from the outside in. They focus on results. I want to lose weight. Then processes. I'll try keto and gym 4 times a week. But the most lasting change happens from the inside out. You don't say, I want to run a marathon. You say, I'm a runner, and then you run. You don't say, I want to be less anxious. You say, I'm someone who creates calm in chaos, and then you breathe. Every action is a vote for the identity you want to reinforce. The story you tell yourself. Humans are narrative creatures. We define ourselves with stories. I'm bad with directions. I've always been lazy. I'm not a morning person. I can't write. I'm not creative. I'm always late. These aren't facts. Their identities formed by past evidence and reinforced through repeated behavior. Change the story, and you change the behavior. But you can't lie to yourself. Your brain needs evidence. That's why even the smallest successful habit is powerful. One workout is not just a calorie burner, it's proof. I'm becoming someone who trains. Science behind identity change. Neuroscience tells us that habits live in the basal ganglia, the brain's autopilot center. But identity? That's in the prefrontal cortex, our decision-making seat. When repeated habits start aligning with our decisions and self-talk, the gap between what I do and who I am closes. That's why identity-based habits last longer than reward-based ones. Because they're not trying to chase outcomes, they're trying to become someone new. Real story, the 100-pound transformation. One reader of James's blog once emailed him, "I've lost over 100 pounds, but it didn't start with a diet. It started with a question. What would a healthy person do?" Each time she faced a choice, drive or walk, soda or water, late night snack or early sleep, she asked, "What would a healthy person do?" And she acted accordingly. Not always perfectly, but repeatedly. Over time, the question became unnecessary. She no longer asked. She was that healthy person. The be, do, have model. Traditional thinking says, have, do, be. If I have more time, I'll go to the gym, and then I'll become fit. But the real model is be, do, have. If you become the kind of person who values health, you'll naturally do what that person does, and eventually have the results they would have. Small habits, big identity. Want to be a writer? Write one sentence every morning. Want to be calm? Meditate for 60 seconds after brushing your teeth. Want to be present with your kids? Leave your phone in the other room during dinner. These actions are small, but their identity effect is huge because every action is a vote for who you believe you are. The more votes, the more confident your brain becomes. Eventually, you're not trying to become that person anymore. You just are. Build identity, brick by brick. Think of identity like a wall. Each habit is a brick. It's not flashy, it's not sexy, but it's real. And unlike motivation, which fades, or goals, which vanish after being reached, identity sticks. Because once you are someone, you'll fight to stay consistent with who you believe yourself to be. That's why smokers who say, "I'm trying to quit," almost always fail. But the ones who say, "I'm not a smoker," those are the ones who make it. They didn't just change their behavior, they changed their identity. The 4 laws of behavior change. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Now that we understand that identity fuels change, how do we build the systems that support it? James Clear introduces the 4 laws of behavior change, a framework based in psychology, neuroscience, and behavioral economics. These 4 laws help you build good habits and break bad ones. Law 1, make it obvious. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Every habit begins with a cue. If your cues are hidden, you'll never gain control. Think about your phone. You don't think, you see it. Then you check it. That's not discipline. That's visibility. James introduces a tool called the Habit Scorecard. Write down your daily actions, from waking up to brushing teeth to scrolling. Then label each as 1 good, bad, in neutral. This brings awareness. You start seeing patterns. The unconscious becomes visible. Habit stacking. Once you know your habits, you can stack a new one onto an existing routine. After I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. After I brush my teeth, I'll write 1 sentence in my journal. This works because the brain already associates the first habit with certainty. It becomes a reliable anchor for the second one. Want to form a new habit? Don't rely on willpower. Stack it, cue it, lock it to something predictable. Environment design. One of James' strongest beliefs is this: environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. You don't need more discipline. You need better surroundings. Want to read more? Place a book on your pillow every morning. Want to play guitar more? Keep it in the center of your room, not hidden in the closet. Want to eat healthier? Put fruit at eye level. Hide the junk. Design beats motivation. Even the great writer Victor Hugo, when struggling to write The Hunchback of Notre Dame, locked away his clothes, forcing himself to stay inside and write naked. Extreme? Yes, but effective. Law 2. Make it attractive. We repeat behaviors that are rewarded, and we crave behaviors that we associate with positive outcomes. The more attractive a habit feels, the more likely it is to stick. This is where dopamine enters the story. Dopamine is not just the reward chemical. It spikes in anticipation of the reward. Think about checking Instagram. You open the app, and then you get the dopamine hit. But your brain learns. Anticipating the scroll is just as good. So if you want a habit to stick, make it pleasurable to look forward to. Temptation bundling. Pair something you want with something you need. Only watch Netflix while running on the treadmill. Only listen to your favorite podcast while cleaning. This creates a craving, not just for the reward, but for the whole loop. One reader of Atomic Habits used this to great effect. He only watched his favorite sci-fi series while riding his stationary bike. Miss a workout? Miss the plot. Suddenly, the bike became desirable. Not because of the pedaling, but because of the pairing. Law 3. Make it easy. You don't need more time. You need less friction. Motivation is overrated. What you really need is convenience. James shares the 2-minute rule. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes. Don't aim to read a book. Just read 1 page. Don't aim to do yoga. Just roll out your mat. Don't aim to cook. Just wash 1 vegetable. Because once you're in motion, momentum takes over. Starting is the hardest part. Make it frictionless. The power of automation. The best habits don't rely on memory or motivation. They rely on automation. Set recurring calendar reminders. Schedule meal deliveries. Sleep in gym clothes. Use apps like Freedom to block distractions. Design your environment and schedule so that the default action is the desired one. If brushing your teeth was hard, you'd never do it. But it's easy, automatic, expected. Make your new habit just as inevitable. Law 4. Make it satisfying. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. Humans are wired for instant gratification. That's why long-term goals are so hard. The reward is months away. But Netflix is right now. So the solution? Bring some part of the reward into the present moment. Use a habit tracker. Each time you complete a habit, mark a big X on the calendar. Seeing the streak builds pride and fear of breaking it. Use visual reinforcement, coins in a jar, rings on your finger, step counters. Make the reward tangible, a small treat, a social share, a moment of joy. When your brain associates the habit with immediate reward, it starts craving the loop. Habit contracts. One powerful method is to use habit contracts, formal or informal. Examples. If I don't go to the gym 3 times this week, I pay my friend $1,000. If I miss meditation 3 days in a row, I uninstall Instagram. If I wake up after 7 a.m., I do cold showers all weekend. Accountability increases the cost of inaction. That's leverage. When you know someone is watching or that there's a consequence, your consistency skyrockets. Summary of the 4 laws. Make it obvious. Cue it clearly. Make it attractive. Link it to reward. Make it easy. Lower friction. Make it satisfying. Reward immediately. Invert these laws to break bad habits. Make it invisible. Make it unattractive. Make it difficult. Make it unsatisfying. From effort to identity, the real power of atomic habits. Every action you take is a vote for the person you wish to become. James Clear. Let's pull back. You now understand how tiny habits form. You've seen the math of marginal gains. You've learned that identity matters more than outcomes. You've mapped the 4 laws of behavior change. But what happens when you put all of this into motion? That's when the story shifts. You stop trying to act like someone else, and you start becoming someone new. Compound growth of the invisible kind. In the beginning, progress is slow. You may not see the fat loss, the savings, the focus, because habits are like planting seeds underground. The roots grow first, in silence, in darkness. But then, one day, something green breaks the surface, and everything changes. People call it a breakthrough, but you know the truth. It was built day by day, brick by brick. Who you were versus who you became. A person who couldn't run a mile now wakes up excited to run 10. Not because of guilt, not because of fear, but because of who they are now. A distracted thinker becomes deeply focused. A chronic procrastinator becomes a maker. A binge spender becomes an investor. An anxious mind becomes a calm guide for others. You don't just change behaviors, you become someone different. Success without forcing it. This is the magic of atomic habits. You don't wake up and force discipline. You don't lecture yourself. You don't rely on motivation. Instead, you design your world. You cast your votes. You show up daily, and you trust the compound effect. Habits become automatic, then enjoyable, then natural, then part of your soul. Apoptya. Habits in every area of life. Let's zoom in on 4 domains. 1. Health and fitness. You don't crash diet. You simply change your default dinner. You walk 15 minutes after lunch. You swap your Netflix binge with yoga once a week. You drink water first thing in the morning. Soon you're sleeping better, thinking clearer, living longer. Not because you changed everything, but because you changed something. Every day. 2. Career and focus. Instead of multitasking, you block 1 hour for deep work. You stop checking email before noon. You write 1 paragraph before opening social media. You end each day with a 2-minute plan for tomorrow. Within months, your output triples. You stop feeling like you're drowning. You become someone others admire for clarity and execution. 3. Money and mindset. You automate 1,000 rupees into savings. You track spending just once a week. You start reading 1 page of a financial book daily. You cancel 1 unused subscription. Soon you're not living paycheck to paycheck. You have breathing room, confidence. You've broken the cycle and built a new one. 4. Relationships and presence. You leave your phone in another room during dinner. You listen 1% more deeply. You ask intentional questions. You write 1 thank you note a month. And slowly, the people around you feel seen, understood, loved. Not because you became a new person, but because you returned to who you always could be. The hero's journey. In every great story, there's a turning point. The hero realizes the enemy was not out there, but within. The same is true here. In the beginning, you may have thought your enemy was laziness, or social media, or genetics, or your past. But now you know. Your enemy was an unseen system, and your power is in rewriting it. You are no longer a passive character in your story. You are the architect of your identity. The hero is not the one who finishes the race. The hero is the one who keeps showing up to train even when no one's watching. That's you now. Where to go from here? From knowledge to identity. If you've made it this far, you're not just someone who listens. You're someone who acts. Someone who believes that tiny changes, repeated daily, can rewrite your entire life. And now you face a choice. Close this video and go back to life as usual, or take your first atomic step. You don't need to change everything today. Just one vote, one action, 1 minute. Start a habit. Reinforce your identity. Design your environment. Stack one small win, because now you know the secret. Success is not about intensity. It's about consistency with intention. And if this video sparked something in you, if something shifted, if you feel the power of this message deep inside, then the journey doesn't end here. Next, watch our episode on first principles thinking. It's the most powerful mental model of all time, a way of thinking used by Elon Musk, Aristotle, and early Islamic scholars alike to break through complexity and rebuild from the core. Watch that. It'll transform how you think, just like atomic habits transformed how you act. Subscribe to IdeaFuel. This isn't just a channel, it's a movement, a library of timeless ideas, told with cinematic soul, for people who are done with surface-level advice. If you believe in growth, not through hacks, but through truth. If you want to become the kind of person who lives wisely, reads deeply, and thinks independently, then join us. Hit subscribe, watch the next idea, cast your next vote. Because here at IdeaFuel, we don't just consume knowledge, we let it change us, one idea at a time.